Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glen Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. with Glen Sutherland. This week, my repeat guest, I should have wrote down all the episode numbers, but Aurelien Bonin. Ari, just to I'll give him a quick intro, because I make everyone introduce themselves, but Ari and I, we did a podcast together for, what was that, 2 years, 3 years?
3, I think, yeah.
3 years? Yeah, so we've done a lot of podcasts. It is out there still, but it's in a smaller form. You don't have I don't believe they have access to all the episodes anymore. But anyway, it was an amazing podcast, and honestly, it was a ton of content because it was almost like we just went out there and taught every week. There was no fluff to the whole thing at all. So it was honestly something that there's a ton of takeaways in there. I'm not sure which episodes are actually up, but if you go look for it, it's the Real Estate Roundtable. When we first started doing it, it was called Advanced Real Estate Investing Talk. Ari, why don't you give everybody a bit of an intro to yourself so they know a little bit about you, maybe a bit about your story?
Yeah, so I trained as a teacher back in Europe, and early on I was intrigued by real estate investing. I remember wanting to buy an apartment in Paris, and it didn't work out. I then later moved to Canada, worked for a family in Toronto, and they had real estate. The grandfather was a real estate developer, very successful, very smart man, with a vision, and also a very present man. Worked for the family and discovered real estate investing. There was a book by Don Campbell, about real estate investing in Canada. I got the bug, and the numbers didn't work in Toronto, so I started looking out east and grew a portfolio in Atlantic Canada. Along the way, I bought a manufactured home community, a mobile home park, and enjoyed the asset class, and was thinking that I'd like to diversify geographically. So I started looking at investing in the US, in Arizona, where I bought a few manufactured home communities as well, and with a partner. And I've grown my portfolio. I feel that I've learned the ropes of investing, and now I'm looking at expanding to larger asset classes, selling or refinancing some of the smaller assets I own. And I was listening to a podcast recently, and it's about the AI leader, the AI-driven leader. He was by the author of his book was being interviewed, and there are so many ways you can leverage AI to for your business, to do automation, more automation, but also to kind of consult. And what I've done is I've created a GPT where I've Sam Zell and another billionaire, and they're kind of my sounding board. So when I have a question, for my investment, I go and put in the GPT, and I get so basically the AI will kind of look through what they've written and what kind of insights they would have, or what advice they would give me in that very particular situation. I found that to be very useful.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I've been trying to get better and better at just using even OpenAI or ChatGPT. So you use it to like ask questions in sound. What some of the things I've been using it for is even contract review. So what I thought was, honestly, it was something that I don't know if I picked it up somewhere or came up with it on my own, but you can dump like a contract in if you can get it into a form that you can paste it in there. And then I ask ChatGPT from the perspective of the buyer, the seller, the attorney, the joint, the assignee, whatever the kind of contract it is. Could you, tell me where the weaknesses are, where the strengths are? And as like Ari knows, like well, both of us, we like to read a lot of books, and that's what I've been working on right now is really getting sharp on the ChatGPT stuff, because I started doing it's a real dry read, but I've been working on my prompts, right? And just because a lot of times you just ask really simple questions, you're not using it to its full potential, right? I don't know. What other things do you use ChatGPT for? You use it to just ask for questions to things?
So I've been experimenting a bit during one weekend. And I've played with something called N8N, and basically you use nodes, and you can, for example, automate tenant communication. But because so you know what you put into AI, you don't know what you get out. It's always differs. So I don't really trust it so far. So that's why I haven't actually implemented it with my tenants. But basically, you create nodes. So you have Gmail, and then you have ChatGPT, if that's the AI you use. And then you have, for example, an if node where if the word contractor is mentioned, then I receive an email as the manager, or the property manager receives an email to bring in a contractor with a summary of what the issue is, what the address is, what's going on, and also and then yeah, and that's one way to use it. It's called N8N, and I've also used it's automation. It's not AI. It's Zapier, and for example, uh, tenants pay me with Interac e-transfer. So what I've done is Zapier goes into my email, collects all the Interac emails, and then summarizes in a nice document, so I know who's paid and who hasn't paid. That's one way I've used Zapier. And now I'm looking at for rent renewals. Zapier is going to send notifications to the tenants. I have everything populated, and the idea is to know when the rent comes to for renewal, and then when, for example, if it's time for a rent increase, then to send out the message. But yeah, these are some of the ways I've used AIs. I've also asked it to review some contracts. And summarize, the key information when you have very, very long contracts, or in commercial real estate, you get those very long lease agreements. So you want to get to the core of the information that you really need to make a decision. And yeah, so
yeah, when you were talking at the start, and you were talking about I didn't catch the name of it, but the AI that was interacting with the tenants. Is that like, what does that look like from their perspective? Is it just like a web page they're talking to, like a chat bot? Is that what it looks like for them?
so the one in particular I was setting up was for email.
Okay.
You can do it for text if you use something.
So it's like an email responder. That's cool.
Yeah. You can do email, you can do text if you use something like Dialpad, and then you need the API of the whatever service you're using, and then uh, um, I run a group for property managers, and there is a service called there are several services, and what they do is the tenant can call, you get a local phone number, and then you get this service, and it's about $2 per tenant per month, and then the tenant is going to interact with an AI, and then the AI is going to try to troubleshoot with the tenant, see what the issue is, and if the tenant can actually remediate themselves, and if not, then you'll get involved. And they can also go into Buildium, a software for property management, where they will issue a ticket and a work order, and then so you can help with automation.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because even as you do anything with your business, you're always trying to like systemize it, right? So you want it to be as efficient as possible. And even I've been like writing scripts for my VA, right? Just to, I don't do cold calling or any of that stuff. I'm not a real salesy guy, but sometimes it's just to follow up with people, right? Where we were waiting on something, just to have a script for that. And if you were going through that procedure already of making scripts, then you could easily have AI do the exact same thing, right? They're just going to be like basically following a script in the same way. So whenever you're doing that, what's involved in setting it up, like planning it? Do you have to write a whole bunch of like potential answers or potential questions, or you said it was just a trigger word like are you looking to invest in the US? Are you looking for a coach that has been doing this for much more than 1 year? In fact, doing this for almost 10 years? Do you want to do one-on-one calls? Do you want to actually have someone looking at your deals and actually thinking and worrying about your projects? If that's of interest to you, I'd love to get on a phone call with you. Go to glensutherland.com or at canadianinvestingintheusa.com and schedule a call. We'll just do a quick 15 minutes, see if it works for you.
Yeah, so the way it works, so you can create a GPT. So you create a GPT, and you kind of decide of a personality for you create a personality for the property management assistant you're going to have. Mine was named Jules. And then Jules was multilingual, and Jules had some knowledge about electricity, plumbing, and understands, what's going on. Jules is super helpful, super friendly, very patient. uh, and the profile was Jules is local to the area, so he knows the area. And then with those parameters, then you have you set up your assistant, and that's the personality of the assistant. So that's these are the guidelines you give it. And then what you can do is you can also upload some documents like your typical lease agreement. If you have addenda to your agreement, like special clauses in your lease agreement, then you can upload that so that if tenants have questions, then they can find out this information from the assistant as well. And the one service provider I was talking to, with the voice service, they can also deal with leads for tenants that are inquiring about new listings, so they can answer all the questions the tenant may have about the listing. How many bedrooms, what's included, what is the pet policy, and etc.
That's awesome. Because then, like some of the times, I do understand the times to have a person there. And in all honesty, if people try to book a call with me, it is me that I get picked up the phone with because that's what they wanted, right? But I do understand that there is times when it's a generic answer. They're asking for something that's a common answer, like an FAQ would answer. But the problem with FAQs is nobody reads them, right? You can put all the questions in. People want to just ask a question and get their question back. They don't want to look through a whole bunch of questions to find their question.
Yeah, I have to say, recently I was working on a website, and I found the AI help really great because it was super patient. It was able to help me troubleshoot any problems I was having. And sometimes, we have moods, as humans. So an AI is not going to have moods. So sometimes it makes it a bit more customer friendly than sometimes when people can, after repeating the question so many times, may lose patience.
Yeah, I wonder if people pick up on that too. Do you think whenever people are talking or emailing you that they understand they're talking to an AI,
So
bot?
I didn't implement it. I'm on the
Oh, you're
fence.
still working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still working on it, but I think it's better to be upfront. So I would want my bot to say, okay, I'm an AI agent, but I can help you with this and that.
Yeah, and I think also then um honestly, like just having disclosure when you're doing anything, just if they say something that you're not going to be liable for what they say if they give wrong information, or I guess you
Mhm.
could be liable, but you may not be to the same extent because they are aware that they're talking to an AI agent, right? Do you
Yeah.
think there's times that you shouldn't use AI to speak with people?
Well, in the US, there are laws where you can code with using AI, so that's one thing,
Yeah,
and and people need to opt in.
yeah,
If you're going to text with them, if you're going to text them, and uh, yeah, I think because we know what we put in, we don't know what we get out of the AI. I think that's one of the reasons why we need to. It's very important to be able to kind of monitor what's being exchanged. So one of the way to do that, one of the safeguards, is to make sure that everything is recorded. Like use software that records everything, so you can proofread and make sure that the whatever communication they're having is in alignment with your intentions.
that makes sense too. And you can also just make adjustments to your GPT in
Hmm.
order to, like, hey, no, we don't we certain questions we don't want you to try to answer. We want you to get us to a real person, right? Because we don't want the people getting incorrect information. Um,
Yeah.
Also, just thinking about this, like, there's certain spots, like, there's just running a real estate business. There's lots of things that could be outsourced to AI. Um, like sales calls, I would say no. I say there's no way to do a sales call, at least not a good one, right? Because the people need a real person to do that, and it's also one of the things that people always try to outsource first. But I think it's one of the things you can't really outsource or you shouldn't outsource. Um, just thinking out loud, like accounting. Honestly, I think you probably could do outsource your accounting, could you not? Or at least bookkeeping,
Yeah,
because it's just
bookkeeping.
taking stuff based on, for me, I do a lot of stuff coming from property management portals or, just information, and it's just line items and it should look the same, right?
Yeah, and they can find out, the AI can find out, which company it is, is it an electrical company through a Google search or research online. And yeah, I think that's going to be really automated soon.
Yeah, because a lot of times you're just copying one thing from one thing to another thing. Like that's what it is, just organizing it in a manner that works for your accounting, right? So like for myself, I'm like looking at every time I'm reading the book and looking through my chat GPT prompts, I'm looking for ways to make it more efficient, to make it to be able to do more stuff, right? Just to take some of this stuff off my plate. Because I started off with the idea is like, hey, I'll hire a virtual assistant to do this. But in hiring a virtual assistant, we go through and every time we do any new task, I ask the VA to sit down afterwards, like go do the task for one day and then go and create the SOP, like the Service Operating Procedure Manual, right? So I have that in Profit Flow on my software, and they build it. So we do a video that records whenever I'm teaching them how to do that. So we have a video in there, and then I get them to break it down with screenshots, where to click, where to do everything. The reason that I was doing it that way was first of all so that that VA had the ability to go back and look if they stop doing this task for a month or something, and then they come back to it, that they have a record of doing it. Or the other thing is like I just had a switch of VAs, and the new VA now has a manual on how to do their job, right? But I think as we progress, you realize, hey, this could be more and more and more stuff that I can outsource to ChatGPT or to a GPT or to an AI of some kind, right? A lot of my stuff is repeatable and boring, and that's why I want to get rid of it, right? Because it's like uploading stuff, and it's going to come down to how much control I want to give the, the
Yeah.
computer, right? Did you know that there are more lending scams in the United States than anywhere else? I've actually come across many of them myself, and some of them are very good at looking legit. If you're interested in a list of lenders, please go to my website and get a list of verified lenders at CanadianInvestingInTheUSA.com/lenders.
And I think I want to go through the exercise again of doing an audit of what are the activities I do during the week. So take a week as an example, and then delegate the tasks that are not a good use of my time. And just about sales, I think it's good. Personality assessments are a really good tool. I like the one called Culture Index. Um, there is an alternative called Predictive Index. And basically, it helps you find out, like in Culture Index, the Rainmaker is a great salesperson. They're very relatable, and so I think if you as you grow your business, it's very good to use personality tests to see who's going to be a good fit for the job, and because if the person is not if it's not in alignment with their personality, they're going to burn out, and they're going to be trying at first, but yeah, they're going to have a hard time.
Do you think like doing a personality test like could assist you in setting these up, setting up an AI or setting up even a virtual assistant to do this for you? Do you think it might?
Yeah, I think the more information you provide, the clearer picture you have of what it is you're looking for, and you provide that to the AI. I think that's a good idea.
To
Yeah.
give it right to the AI. That's a good idea too, because that's what a lot of the prompts that I've been learning that I didn't understand before are about, setting up parameters and repeatable things. Like before, it used to spell my name wrong every single time I went into ChatGPT. It would think because it listens to like podcasts. It listens to all of our podcasts, and then it creates the descriptions that I use in the podcasts, right? So, in the iTunes and YouTube and everything else. But it always spelt my name with two N's. But the more you're learning is you can start to, the GPT can save information you want. And you can even make it so, like, for instance, if I'm doing a call with my property manager every week, I can put the transcript from that call right into the chat GPT, and then it can itemize what I talked to, like about the property on Main Street, and then the property on King Street, and the property on Queen Street. It'll summarize and it'll give you a summary of actions that happened, follow what your next items should be. And what I found is if you ask it to just summarize it by property, it gets confused. So a lot of times it's about setting up the prompts ahead of time. So it's like, hey, can you find the information about 123 King Street, and then find all the information about 234 Queen Street, but you make it into a large prompt that it can do this. And I was typing this every time or copy and pasting, and even the GPT, I was noticing even over the last week or two, it was starting to have more options already built in and suggesting that I set this stuff up, even though I was learning how to set up the prompts to do it like so that it would do it based on what I did. It's starting to get smart enough to even ask it, like, hey, you've asked this for before. Do you want us to save this as kind of a template of a question? And you start to type stuff, and it's like asks you, is this what you're trying to do? So it's even getting smarter about what I do whenever I'm doing the same activities on ChatGPT specifically. Yeah, I don't know. It's honestly there's a lot of stuff here to learn, and I honestly want to see how far I can go with the auditing. But my biggest fear, what I don't want to have happen is I want the personal touch too. I want anyone who's like interested in like say my coaching program, I always want it to be me. Even like I have a coach that teaches me marketing because I'm always looking to get smarter and and he is always saying, no, get somebody else to do the calls. And I'm like, people don't want to talk to somebody else. The reason they're even interested in the coaching program is because of me. So I always want it to be me. And so I think what it's going to come down to is like you don't need to reinvent this wheel. Look at the big guys, right? The big social media marketers online. I won't drop names, but if you just picture somebody else who's doing what you want to do you think what tasks do you think they do, right? And what tasks do you think that they don't do? And a lot of the tasks they do are the social media like the doing podcasts, doing interviews, creating content, and doing sales calls. Well, maybe they might not even do their own sales calls. I think a lot of people outsource that. But I think that's what anyway, anytime I want to build a bigger business, I'm kind of going on a rant. Every time I want to build a bigger business, I find somebody who's doing what I want to do, and I picture their company and reverse engineer it how it would run. And if you do it that way, you can go through and build basically your SOP or your service operating procedures. And if you have that, then you can have AI run a lot of your business. And sometimes it's going to be just figuring out the details of how to get the AI to run with, an Excel sheet, or how AI to interact with PDFs, or how AI to do, to talk. And it just comes down to the finer details. And you start thinking about it, and you're like, 90% of my business, I don't need to be doing. Right. And I think that's
Yeah.
even being a business owner, like that's why I started having VAs. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was traveling recently. I came back with a lot of deals in the pipeline, and I started using a CRM, and it's really helping a lot. And it shows the different steps until you get the contract. And maybe mention that you and I are working at some looking at some deals in the US. So. Some opportunities will show up, and we've identified the type of asset class, we've identified the lending, and yeah. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah. So what Ari's referring to is like, we've been, working together. I don't know how long ago did you start that mastermind? 4 or 5 years ago. So we've been like talking to each other on like a weekly basis for quite some time. And with any of that, business comes in. Well, we talk business, but business opportunities working together creeps in, and we've realized that we have opposite skill sets. So I think it was a good jive. And yeah, Ari and I have been, underwriting properties, and we're looking to buy some. I don't know what kind of size you call that, like small multifamily. But whenever I usually say small multifamily, people think 1 to 4 units. We're talking more like 20 to 40 unit sort of buildings. And yeah, there's gonna be stuff coming down the pipeline. We're putting our stuff together, and we're working on negotiating with some of these sellers to get some amazing deals. Anyway, Ari, this was fun. Honestly, I love that we started talking about AI. If people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
yeah, we'll put my website in the show notes. It's the best way to get in touch with me. And I organize an event in London. We try to bring as much value as possible. 1 month is in London in person, 1 month is on Zoom. So everybody is welcome, lots of value, and yeah,
Honestly, I
you
love that format too because it opens up even your guest list because your guest doesn't have to be local because otherwise it was stuck. It was tougher to find a guest to
Mhm.
travel to or have to find someone local every time. This way, it gives you the ability to stretch out and pick whoever you want to pick their brain. So yeah,
I'm a
I'll put
big
those
believer.
links in the show notes and
I'm a big
quickly.
believer in those meetups because you're maybe a relationship away from a deal, you're a relationship away from hearing something that's going to impact your life, your business. So I really believe in those events and their value. So that's why I organized that one.
I couldn't agree more. I, you know what? We're late in the show. I'm not going to go into more stories, but yeah, I've bought properties at real estate meetups. I've sold properties at real estate meetups. I've gotten contacts to people I didn't know it and turned it into really big business opportunities. So, in person's incredible, and then the remote just gives you the ability to talk to people you wouldn't necessarily get to talk to. So it's a perfect mix. I love it, Ari.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on, Glenn.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a great day.
That was a nice video. Bye.